Happy New Year! And welcome to Momentous Live, episode 94. We're going to go clockwise here. I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm William Silver.
I'm Jamie Reynolds.
I'm Greg Williams.
I'm Jerome Matthew. Oh,
Jerome doesn't know how to read a clock.
So close.
What happens when you get to the bottom?
It's the time zone. It's the time zone difference.
Oh, that's right. It's Beijing. Let's try that again. I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm William Silver.
I'm Jamie Reynolds.
I'm Greg Williams.
And I'm Jerome Matthew.
There we go.
Yes.
Perfect. Well done.
Take two.
Also, there's the
Perfect.
delay,
Yeah,
too.
but-
There's not the time zones, the delay, the VPNs. He's broadcasting from an undisclosed location. All right. Of course, the lovely and talented Tasia Custodi cannot be with us this week, but she should be with us next week for our Looking Forward episode. So this is our couple of special holiday-ish episodes that we're making a tradition of. It's our second year running. So next year it'll be our third year if we're still alive. I mean, still doing this. So, but first, we have we just got to remind us all, everyone, mom and dad who are watching, if you're there, where to find us online. And that is at momentus.tv/links. All the socials you can find at one place right there. And then now we were going to go to a little bit of follow-up, just very little, because we've got an action-packed episode. We're going to discuss our favorite Christmas gifts, tech purchases, movies, TV shows, and more.
I thought you were going to warn your mom and dad not to just to shut off for a few minutes when we talk about cryptocurrency, and then they can come back again.
Yeah, they just kind of shut their brains off. Like, what is this? Who cares? No, this is intriguing, and this is gonna be a made for TV movie at some point, and that is the QuadrigaCX story, which did we talk about this on Momentous Live? I'm having trouble remembering. I think it all happened, I think, just before I don't know, what is time? So the long and short of it is there's this one of the biggest actually Canadian crypto exchange, QuadrigaCX. It's been around for a while. I actually have an account there. I never actually used it because when I was comparing to CoinSquare a few years ago, it didn't look right. I did some research on the founders, and one of them seemed a little sus, as the kids say. So I ended up going with CoinSquare, and thank goodness I did. Great. Tell us what happened to QuadrigaCX, whenever it was a year or two ago.
Essentially, they have wallets that have coins locked up in them. He apparently went to India, I believe, and
Gerald Cotton, I think his name is the founder.
Yes, yeah, and died of a stomach infection or a stomach ailment. We haven't seen the body.
He had Crohn's disease, so he was, was vulnerable.
And died. I think they were trying to exhume his body at one point. Yeah. Anyway, it's yet another of cryptocurrency's greatest scandals where it looks like an exit scam. And with these coins being moved out of the wallet and not by the estate management company, I think a lot of us were just waiting for this moment.
So yeah, that's the latest development. So when this all went down, there was all these customers. Their funds were inaccessible. Supposedly the company had lost access to the private keys to the wallets. There wasn't a lot of good governance going on, and so all these funds were thought to be lost. There was the receiver, in place, or the bankruptcy trustee in place to try to make people whole again. All the people who had accounts with QuadrigaCX. And there was virtually nothing that was recoverable. Even Gerald Cotton's wife, she had to sell some assets to help make people whole again too. So it's not like she was really partying because of the situation. And now, like you say, there was these 100 Bitcoins. So whatever that's worth nowadays, it's about 116. So it's like $1.6 million. Yeah, but $1.6 million US worth of Bitcoin that has now been moved from the custodial wallet elsewhere, and now they've moved, I believe, to a mixing service.
Yes.
Great. Can you explain what a mixing service is, and why would someone want to use that?
Essentially, a crypto mixing service is designed to make the transactions that you're processing on the blockchain a little bit more difficult to follow. And so they break the transactions up into multiple. Now, that's not to say they can't follow them. It's just going to take more time to, by which it might have gone through another mixing service and another until finally it is taken out at the Bitcoin place on Burrard.
So the speculation reigns now. Is Gerald Cotton actually dead? There was apparently the trip to India is the kind of thing some people do in order to try to fake their deaths. There was trouble, accessing, certain records and whatnot. So now the conspiracy theorists are going in overdrive because now these coins are moving around and he was the only person who had access to the private keys. So TBD, looking forward to how this story evolves. So that's just our one little bit of follow-up. That was
Dude totally had a facelift, had a sex change, living out its Jerry.
Yeah. Can I just say this is a good lead into a show that I wanted to briefly mention as one of my TV show picks. It's actually very interesting segue to that that story, that concept. So I just wanted to link that.
We'll put a pin in there, and then we'll get into TV
later.
shows in a little bit. So the little teaser from Jerome there, and we'll see where that goes. Color us intrigued. So we're going to start off with our some of our favorite categories, our favorites of 2022. And given that it was just the holiday season and Christmas time and other holidays, we thought we'd start with our favorite gifts that we received, be they tech or otherwise. Starting with William.
Well, I have a couple gifts that I really appreciated this year. There's one that I was going to show, but I actually left it at my other location. But the thing that I'll mention is I got a new turntable for scratching, and it's the Reloop 8000 MK2, and basically it hooks up with Serato. So all those buttons on the side, you can do tone play, or you can do hot cues. And it's got all the bells and whistles. It can be a regular turntable, or it can hook up to Serato. So,
remind us, for the sake of Jamie and the other old people in the audience, what Serato is.
So Serato is how you DJ with computers.
Wait, his son, Jamie's son, is a DJ. Come on, right?
He has. Yes, he has.
So he must know.
Is his system serrated, or is it the other one?
Serrated, yes. Or is it
serrated? Is that what they call it? Serrated? That's awesome.
Really cuts through the noise. It's
cutting through.
So what does this do, Will?
So basically, it allows you to play records, or you can use your computer to basically use a turntable to use your digital music collection on your computer. And the turntable actually has all these cool functions that link in MIDI functions. Specifically, it's kind of designed for Serato, but I believe you can use a lot of the MIDI functions with any sort of DVS, which is the system that basically connects a computer to a device to play music and DJ. So this is pretty much top drawer in terms of bells and whistles. I have another great turntable that I like to use for scratching, which is a Stanton ST150, which people often consider a very good turntable, and I love it. But this one has all the sort of added bells and whistles of the pads that allow you to do hot cues within a song, which basically you pick out certain parts of a song, or do loops. You can actually change the pitch as well with these buttons, and that's all through Serato. You can also choose things like filters and other things. So it's really a fun little thing on top of having a mixer that has those things. So it's kind of a bit of a indulgence in the holiday season. I kind of had a rough year, so I I splurged, but it was also a little bit on sale after Black Friday. My theory, as always, Captain Paranoia, when things go on sale for more than $300, it means that a new model is coming out next year. But that's okay because I got it for $300 less. So I'm fine with that. But
you
yes.
jam?
Oh yes, we need to jam sometime.
That looks awesome.
Sweet.
Very cool.
So now, can you use one of your 1700 mixers with this, or is this?
Well, ideally you need to use a mixer with DVS enabled, so it would have to have a sound card in it.
So you better just get rid of all those Vestax mixers then. Is that
No.
what we're saying now? Okay.
No,
Not gonna happen.
not gonna happen. No, those
right.
are like my babies. Those are my cats, and maybe my wife. But yeah. So it's mostly I have a couple mixers with Serato, but or DVS enabled. No, the Vestax
All right.
ones are pure analog joy.
Sweet. So next year, after the next Great Recession, then we'll fire sale on the Vestax mixers. But let's move along here because we've got a lot of picks to get through, and we're going to move from the DJ man cave to the kitchen, where men like Jamie truly belong. What was one of your favorite gifts this year, Jamie?
Well, this one, it's kind of just a little stocking stuffer. Santa grabbed it for me. I like to cook, and this one here was a nice little techie sort of gadget, pretty basic and simple, but it allows you to cook things to the correct temperature. And it's a dual prong thermometer. So I was very excited about it because I did a deconstructed turkey for Christmas this year. So I pre-carved the turkey before it was cooked, and then did some things to it, and then put everything in the oven. And then I wanted to cook the thighs to a certain temperature and the breast to a certain temperature, and I was able to monitor both at the same time. And hot diggity dog, it was the most popular turkey I've ever cooked with my guests. So
Nice.
so yeah, it was it's quite user friendly. It's not app enabled, but I kind of like that. Everything's apps these days, and so
You mean
many
it'll still
things.
work in 5 years?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't have to download it updates every 3 days because of some reason. So yeah, it's a nice simple little gift, and I like gifts that serve a purpose. It's funny though, my wife Christy, she said that she really has to stop trying to buy me gifts revolving around kitchen appliances, and that used to be my problem. I used to just think, well, it's my wife, she wants kitchen appliances, of course, and now it seems to have flipped a little bit. So yeah, anyways, that's a recommended for me.
So now I've never seen one with two probes before.
I know.
What
two
happens? Have you tried? If they touch, will you tear a fabric? Tear the fabric of space time?
No, they won't.
No?
It doesn't use quantum physics, Tristan.
Okay.
Come on.
Not yet, anyway. Well, we're looking forward to that one. But
Just want to make sure because
Never cross the streams. Is that what you're saying?
Never cross. That's very dangerous.
Well, if you reverse the polarity in the polar
Oh,
envelope.
that's right, and reroute the power coupling or something.
Yeah.
All right.
exactly.
Moving on. Gray's got a Indiegogo crowdfunded gift here. What's this one about?
Showed up
Gray?
after Christmas, but it's still my Christmas gift to myself. This is the Hera H1. And so this is a Hall Effect keyboard, right? You guys are super excited about that, right?
Keep going.
Okay,
I'll hold it up. I'm going to make you go. I'm going to make you nice a little bit.
Okay,
Here, yeah?
so when you're playing games on a console, the sticks and the buttons on this are analog, right? If you pull the trigger on the say you're driving, you pull the trigger on that, the harder you pull, the faster the car goes, right? If you only sort of feather it, it's not going to go quite as fast because it's an analog response. Keyboards are digital. Okay, so now you're playing video games on your console, you're playing video games on your computer. Let's say a game like, I don't know, Destiny 2. And you have
Never heard of it.
This beautiful analog response where you've got, more fluid control over things because you have that response to the keyboard and you don't hear.
I hear fluid control is important.
That's right. Just make sure you get it topped up. So this is the Hall Effect keyboard, which means that it has that kind of analog response to every single key. which is really cool for typing and very cool for video games. It comes with a bunch of extra keycaps and switches, and it's the first one in the world wireless. Very excited about it.
First one in the world that's wireless. So is that using the Bluetooths or?
Yeah, it is. 75% keyboard, Bluetooth, USB-C, and yeah.
So the next question is obviously going to be, with crowdfunded campaigns, they can be notorious, especially hardware ones, notorious for taking forever to reach fruition if they ever do. When did you first fund this?
I funded this in November.
Oh, that's it?
They said
Wow.
delivery. They said delivery by mid-January.
That's impressive.
Well done, Half Board. Well done.
Yeah.
Yep, loving it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Sweet.
The show is
All
so
right.
educational. Really great.
All
All we're doing
right.
is just draining each other's wallets. That's
Yes, that's another problem is that you're going to spend money if you watch the show, I think.
So it's got the RGBs. So you got all the lights and whatnot. And
your real gamer, yes. Yep.
And you chose the. So this does not have. It's not extended keyboard. It's a compact keyboard. Is that correct?
correct,
Or are they
yes.
different? All right.
Yeah, so this one is RGB 75%. 10 kilos.
So why a compact versus the extended? What are the pros and cons?
I'm not an accountant, and the cat likes to sit on my desk. So that's yeah.
I can
There's
say
a row of
for
keys
my
with numbers
work
on the
that
top.
The extended is super important for like my work. I mean, it's sort of useful. I just sold one of the regular size keyboard because it's just like I need the keypad for the extended functions.
Right.
You know, for our work for recording and editing and things. But depends what you do.
I don't actually do anything related to work, and I don't really add any value. So
What a good life, man.
I play video games.
Didn't you know Gray's an eccentric billionaire? All right.
See the stars back there?
Nice. All right. Do I have a pick? Where did I put it? Where did I
Oh, we're
put
seeing.
We can
Oh,
see
yeah.
that, you know.
it? Okay.
Oh, that's
Keep
very
talking.
nice.
Talk amongst yourselves.
We're gonna get you a new kimono for next year because this one's fully open.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. Gift from my lovely wife Stephanie. What I had asked
that's
for.
gorgeous.
A number of years ago, she had gotten me a little charging station for, various devices for the bedside table, and the wireless charger, and it was I believe a Qi charger, which worked on my iPhone 10, which I replaced with an iPhone 14 Pro in September. Again, it's a bit of a different size. The new iPhones do support Qi wireless charging. They also have MagSafe, but the dimensions were a little different, and the nature of the original charger was such that it just wasn't working. Like I could rest it on some stuff or whatnot. So I'd asked, she had ordered from a little independent operation, because it was modular. You could replace the different charging bits, including the wireless bit, but she could not track them down anymore. So that's one of the challenges of sometimes trying to support small businesses, is sometimes they don't last forever, and was not able to get replacement parts. So she found another small business, this one in Toronto. So hopefully this one lasts a little bit longer. And so the previous charging station still works, and still works with the old device, which I still use on occasion. That'll probably be going to our undisclosed location across the border, where we sometimes broadcast Momentous Live when it's not freezing cold. But this new one that she got me is quite nice. It's sort of a walnut finish, and it has space for charging various devices, including one's tablet, a smartphone, smartwatch, earbuds, and whatnot. I've got an Apple-centric one, but they also have one for Samsung and other devices. And it's got a little space for your fancy watch and some rings, and you can even put a pen on there. So so far so good. The nice thing is you can swap the cables out. So if you move from Lightning to USB-C to something else in the future, it's all kind of modular underneath, and you just move the cables around in there and replace them. So thumbs up for me, and it's classy because it's
Very cool.
walnut finish.
Walnut.
Finish. All right, so
Made in Canada.
This keyboard here, not made in Canada, has a walnut wrist rest that you can't get imported because Customs Border Patrol will seize it. They did it twice.
as a what device?
There's a walnut wrist rest, And because of the type of wood, there's laws against it. So you can't import it. So
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, woods can sometimes, if they're not treated properly, can bring in insects. So
Get those.
you have to be careful with that stuff.
It's all fun and games till you get the pine beetles in there.
Oh yeah.
All right. So moving on from things we received from others in most cases, unless they're gifts to ourselves. Throughout the whole year, we're going to talk about some of our favorite tech purchases that we enjoyed most of the year long. And again, we're going to go back around the horn to Will. Will, what was your favorite tech purchase this year?
Well, I think purchase is such a loose word here. My
Or
favorite
tech thing, fine.
acquisition,
Rental.
So I was fortunate enough to get I guess a pair of Apple AirPods Pro 2, and
Nice.
very fortunate, and I'm really loving them. I got them in December, and Tristan and probably many of you, because you've been on before, obviously Gray, may have heard that I have in the past when we've talked about Apple AirPods. I haven't been a huge fan just because, I'm good with the old wired cans. I'm fine with that. But having been given a pair of Apple AirPods Pro,
That's a different story.
it's a different story, and I've enjoyed them, but I use them for a singular purpose, which is it's mostly for walking, for listening to music or things like that, and I'm really enjoying that. I know this is funny, but the interruptions about text messages, I enjoy that because I don't have to pick up my phone and look at it. But it's also very amusing when it goes, message from Tristan. Ha ha ha! Vomit emoji.
Yeah. Something is lost there in the translation, but
yes, exactly.
I'm the
I
same.
think it's
I
right
like to
on,
wear
personally.
yeah, I like to wear good headphones too. But there's times when you need a pair of these, right?
Yes. The other
so-
great thing about this is the noise canceling is crazy. The transparency, which is where it lets you listen to a little bit of the background, is very cool. And when you adjust those, it's really cool. I actually had an instance, they knocked down the house across from mine and were bulldozing it. And I wasn't even listening to music. I just threw in my Apple AirPods, so I didn't have to listen to the bang and all that. So I am
cool.
really enjoying them. But yeah, they're sort of for singular purpose. I don't use them all the time. I don't use them for work or for editing or music creation or anything like that. But if I'm out for a walk, I'll throw them on.
Yeah, that's the thing when you're doing for video editing or music creation with Bluetooth, it has ever so slight a lag, and for some folks, it just won't cut it. Hence the wired cans being preferable. But for casual use, like I wear my first generation ones virtually all day long, and yeah, I mean the new ones are even better noise canceling, better transparency mode. I think longer battery life. They've got the speaker on the case now, so you can find the case using Find My if you need to. It's got the little doodad for a lanyard if you want it as well. So glad you're enjoying it. And what did you? And you said you were given it. Can you remind us where you got it, Will?
I was fortunate enough to get a gift from my workplace. So
very cool. And so we were all putting in our applications there now, so we get sweet gifts.
There is one feature that does bear mentioning, which is the adaptive transparency, which is when you have a loud noise that happens while you have transparency on, it will auto mute it.
Nice.
And it does this extremely well. I tested this out at Maker Labs. It was over 105 decibels without these things turned on, 60 decibels with active noise cancellation and adaptive transparency.
Really that helps, yeah, because transparency mode, what it does, just when the regular transparency mode, it uses the built-in mics so that the passive noise canceling from the middle mode it actually will let in some sounds. But like you said, if you've got a sudden loud noise, you're gonna have a bad time. So it's nice that it sort of can jump on those with cheetah-like reflexes. All right, moving on to our next tech purchase over to JR.
That would be me.
What do you got for us,
What did I
James?
say? I don't remember what I said.
Nest
too many
Thermostat
too many good gifts.
version 4, I believe.
Oh yes, so this was tech purchase of 2022. So yeah, I broke down and we have an older drafty home built in the 20s, and so it has some temperature issues, and we had an old mercury thermostat where you would turn it and the mercury bubble would go in a little tube and it would make the connection. So I decided it was time to upgrade. Tristan has a version of the Nest, I believe, as well, and maybe some of you other guys do. But
The old man version 1.
okay, gotcha. So this one, this one's quite nice, and so I took the old thermostat and just cracked open the mercury tube and just poured that down the sink. Don't need that anymore. And joke.
I hope you took a whiff first.
And then I had to do a bit of fancy footwork. These new thermostats, the Nest ones especially, are a 24-volt based system. They come with a battery that can be recharged if you want to recharge it every few days. But what I did is I went into the inner workings of my house and I bought myself a transformer, 24-volt transformer, and a fan relay switch, and wired it up all fancy like, and now I have it fully set up, so it's functioning from house power and hooked up to the Wi-Fi, so I can be in bed and change the thermostat. Watching on the couch, I can be across the world and change it if I need to. It's got some really neat features. One that we haven't quite decided if we're going to use yet is basically sensing whether or not you're home. So if you allow it to track your phone location, to say Google if you're at home or within a radius of your home, if you're not within that radius, it'll actually turn the temperature down. So because it knows nobody's in the house, and then as soon as you get into the radius of that on Google Maps, it will then turn the thermostat on. But at this point, that's a bit too much. That's a bit too smart home, gonna lock all the doors and suffocate us at high temperatures. So, but other than being worried about it going rogue, it's been great. I haven't touched the thermostat hardly at all, and we can check our usage. So especially during our latest cold snap, we were able to see how much gas we were using. The setup was easy, again, other than the wiring. So if you know how to do some electrical and don't mind getting the odd little spark in your house, which might have happened once when I was doing the wiring, it's great. It's easy to do.
I thought you were going to say you don't mind getting electrocuted occasionally.
Electrocution, technically you're dead.
Yes.
You're shocked if you're sorry.
Anything just
You
to
could become
feel
alive
something.
again.
I think everyone with a home though wants one of these, and it looks very cool. I like the installation video; it's pretty hilarious too.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, if you have baseboard heating, these won't work for you, right? So there are two
No, they
Canadian
will.
companies that this one does, because I couldn't get it to work.
Well, no, yeah. So if it's got to be wired, you got to have 24 volts to it. So that's what
Yeah.
I did.
Well,
So with
so-
my old house, it's what's called a millivolt system. So from my thermostat, from my furnace comes out two wires, and it sends
Yes.
a micro amount of voltage through there, which basically just kind of, once it's connected, it basically tells it's on, but it doesn't power the actual thermostat. So that's why I had to do my rewiring to add 24 volts to the thermostat itself.
Yeah. So there, for a lot of folks out there, though, if you're in an apartment that you're renting, or if you're in a condo where you don't have access to that, Sinopay and Mysa both do baseboard heaters that are like this. Not nearly as cool, but
Yes, exactly.
they will do the job.
Yeah.
So.
Moving on to Gray. What do you got for us here? xTool.
The xTool M1, I'm gonna sneak it. No, actually, I'll wait for the wild card. So the xTool M1, it's back there. You can see it right there. It's this beautiful portrait mode that Apple's putting on my video. But that is actually the xTool M1 Deluxe, because it's the 10-watt LED diode laser, which means that it can't do some things. Right? You can't do like gold and silver. You need an infrared laser to do that, or a CO2 laser.
Remind us what it
or
is.
fiber laser.
Yeah. What does it do?
So this is a laser engraver, a laser cutter, and also has a blade in it, so you can cut paper, you can cut vinyl. It's a cricket that also has lasers. Sharks with lasers, crickets with lasers. So the Cricut machine that you'll find in Michael's for doing arts and crafts with. Right. So that does all of that. Now the top half of that is the xTool M1. The bottom half is actually the honeycomb base, where you get a the R2 rotational tool. So if you're doing things like the Yeti cups, you can engrave around on the side, right? It'll rotate it, because if you try to do that flat on, obviously the laser is going to go out of focus. When it goes out of focus, it doesn't, cut right or mark right. So really, really cool thing. And on top of that, because that's vinyl, just arrived the other day. I got about a t-shirt press.
Nice.
I'm gonna start making t-shirts.
Nice.
Tristan, you got me inspired with this, with your Class of '84 shirt.
Sweet.
Make them at home.
Make them at home.
So that's the actual one. It's the diode lasers really, like, they become more popular. A lot of them are these like open concept designs where they've got the laser shroud. There's a protective glass around it. This thing is fully contained, and underneath it is actually the xTool smoke extraction system. So there's a carbon filter in there. I can run this thing indoors, no windows, no ventilation. It's right there, taking care of all the smoke and the toxic gases.
It cuts down on the brain damage.
On the what?
On the brain damage. Yeah.
On the what?
I see what you did there. And the hearing. So what kind of clearance do you have in this unit for things that you can engrave?
So basically, you're looking at about 6 inches for the bed. And I think I want to say it's 12 by 18 on the inside. When you've got the base in there, you can actually, I think you almost triple that. It's like 18 inches deep. No.
So if any of us have any project ideas, you're the one to hit up.
Yeah. So the reason I bought this, my dad's getting one as well, because he's retiring. Cambridge Engravers, he did that on one of his Xenotech machines, or Zeng, I think. And so this is now something that my mom can use at home, because they want to keep doing cool stuff. Cool stuff right there. So we're going to take his business online into an Etsy style store. And
Sweet.
yeah.
On demand, custom.
Jerome, did we miss you in the last round? Did we talk? We didn't talk about your MacBook.
Well,
did we?
possibly. But I mean, yeah, but it's not particularly exciting. or
Okay, well, let's do a
interesting
two-for. We
compared
got
to
a
what we've seen so far.
double Apple thing here. I don't know how I did that. I'm sorry. I'm bad at my job. We're only 94 episodes in here, so we'll do a little double Apple Fest. We're not getting paid, so we had a gift. Maybe it was a gift to yourself and a tech purchase, and so
Yes.
you've got a MacBook Pro and you've got an Apple TV 4K. So should we start with the MacBook?
Yeah, it's funny because I just want to make a quick shout out to my first pick of this year's tech purchase is something that no one has any interest or knowledge about. So I didn't mention it because it's related to my work. It basically lets me hear what the sound I'm working on would sound like in a car without going in the car.
What's that?
And it's a dream because I used to have to go into the car. And so I actually went to the car and I compared to see how good is this software. And it was really good. It
What's
really
that
did,
called,
like,
Jerome?
it's called SoundID Reference. So I didn't mention it because it's really of no interest to anybody except for someone like me.
Well,
So that's my pick. But it's a very cool high tech. It simulates exactly what it sounds like in different environments, so I can hear how it would sound without actually going to the car or whatever. So that's my pick. But let's skip because nobody cares about this stuff unless you're.
That's okay. No one's
watching,
watching,
right?
So
Yeah. So,
I'm talking to 3 people
so I
watching
didn't
right
put
now,
this-
so your numbers are off.
And that's exactly the speaker. That's exactly the speaker I'm using, and it's so I've analyzed my room. I've created a preset, but then it can say, well, let's see how it sounds on your Apple AirPods or on your Apple MacBook Pro, and it's like my clients sometimes say, oh, I'm listening to this song and it sounds very like harsh and high frequencies, and I'm like, well, what are you listening to? MacBook Pro. Oh, well, there you go. I'm gonna do a new mix, running it through the preset for the MacBook Pro, and find out what it's doing to the sound. So I'm sorry I didn't give that
No
to you
worries.
earlier, but I want to just say that, and this is also, I want to mention this because I'm kind of like, my two choices being Apple is kind of I have very bittersweet feelings about this because I'm currently having a falling out with Apple and I'm very pissed off with Apple. So my two picks are Apple, But I hate you, Apple. That's
All
what I'm
right. So
gonna
speaking
say.
of MacBook Pro, that was one of your picks. Which model did you end up picking up?
I found out for my work that the M1 Pro is more than enough, and if you buy the Max or any other chips, you're just wasting your money. So I got and I found out also 16 gigabytes on an M1 Pro is sort of like 32 gig on an Intel, so I only had to get 16 gig.
And your work, remind us for the folks out there.
Well, I'm using this machine for the Canada studio, doing music production and film mixing and sound design for games and such things. So it's I had to get this. It was a purchase for myself. I wanted to I was really very close to getting the AirPods Pro, but I had to get this because my Intel computer died. So suddenly.
And
so
the kind of work that you're doing with the Max, one of the big benefits of going to the M1 Max is the enhanced GPU functionality, but you're not really using a lot of GPU because you're mostly doing audio work, correct?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes, and that's why I don't need I just need the base chip, because the M1 itself is so much better than the Intel that it will do more than enough to allow me to do my work. And a lot of the tools we're using now, they have AI integration, and so what happens is on an Intel machine, even the fastest one you can get, you're just maxing out the processor, and I probably killed the old machine.
Oh, and they ended
basically.
heat issues. I think it was.
Oh, it was on. The fans were on all the
I know
time,
Jerome
and I was just.
I know
doing
Gray had that
basic
problem
work.
too.
Yeah, and it was very hot, and so this computer, I haven't heard the fans yet, but I haven't really yet to push it and see what it can do. But I have no doubt that I'm not going to have those issues with this machine, and I will be able to run like newer software that's using AI in real time without worrying about the processor issues or the heat or the fans going on. You don't want fans blasting when you're doing sound work. That's ridiculous.
Even when these things are fully pinned, you can't hear them. That's good.
No, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and that shows the failings of the Intel and the complications of having Intels running on multiple machines. And I was just like so relieved to get to move to the M1 because that was my plan, and I was pushed a little early to do it. But now I don't have to worry about these issues, and I can use whatever I want. I can max out my projects without worrying about the processor. So it's good to have, but I just not very happy with Apple for various reasons. The way they handled the issue with my old computer, a number of problems. Just briefly, to give you an idea of my 2022, I wanted to trade this in. I said, can I trade this in? Because even though the old one died, it didn't fully die. So there was trading was an option. Okay, let's just briefly, say that I was able to have the option of trade in for various reasons. And then, so when it came time after buying the machine to trade it in, I'm like, I never received any kit or anything or any comment or any message about trading in and sending in the machine, because they don't let you do it in the store, which is really annoying when you get a custom machine. You can't just swap them. So I called them and then find out what's going on here. And they're like, sorry, our entire trade-in program is under lockdown, so we can't do anything for you. Sorry.
Thanks, zero COVID policy.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Well, that whole policy is ruined many people's lives, including Apple's, I'm sure. So let's not talk about that. But the point is, I had a number of issues. So anyway, the M1, I'm hoping will have a nice, long, and healthy life. I have some faith in the Apple processors, these chips now. My Intel woes for the last 10 bloody years are over, I hope. Although I still have like 4 Intel machines, but
we look down on them. So it's
yes, we do. We really do.
How did you update all your audio software? Was it all compatible? Did you have to buy new versions of
Oh,
software?
dude, we don't even want to have that conversation.
We'll have another
conversation
episode on top
offline.
gripes of 2022.
Yeah, it's like half of my software is like, oh, I can run really well on this chip, and the other half is like, oh my gosh, what is this? I don't know. I'm going to run in Rosetta or whatever.
In Rosetta, I found it's pretty fast. Like it was faster than my 2019
Yeah,
Intel, so I'm like, win.
It seems to be
Yeah.
better than the Intel,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm having some interesting issues, and I'm in a number of support chats with a number of software companies.
I was tracking down a plugin after I upgraded for about 6 months till finally they updated Guitar Rig 6 or something like that, and they finally updated it so it worked basically. But it took me 6 months of hounding them on a forum. Like every 3 weeks I would just be like, hey, so any updates on that?
Well, this is one of the companies, Native Instruments. Shout out to you, losers. That, their support on the website says we work with the M1 chips, in fine print Rosetta mode, and we don't have any date for full support in native mode. It's like, well, get on it, guys. It's been a few years here.
The joys of platform architecture transitions, and the good news is that Intel seems to be stepping up their game in response, because they don't want to lose. I mean, they're probably not going to get Apple back as a customer anytime soon, but they don't want to lose on the PC side of business to AMD, who's been really eating their lunch in a lot of ways for years and years now. So Intel has doubled down on their efforts, and everyone's trying to get their smaller processes. Eventually, Intel's been lagging behind and getting down to 5 nanometer and eventually to 3. But real quick, your next thing was another Apple device, and that was an upgrade to your system. You got an Apple TV 4K. What's the quick story there?
No, I actually had a really old Apple TV that was sold that I just didn't use it because it wasn't useful, and the 4K really was a big jump from that, because it just when you have a family, it just makes your life more simple in terms of different people watching different things, and even easy access to integrating your machines. It's just when you use Apple stuff, it just makes your life so much easier, and the content is getting better and better on there. In fact, later my picks are actually Apple TV shows, because I did get a free trial of Apple TV, and
Apple TV Plus being the service, right?
Yeah.
Worst naming
TV
scheme
Plus
ever.
Service, so.
Yeah,
right. So I do find it works really well. But I have to say, before the Apple TV 4K, the Apple TVs were kind of struggling to be what they wanted to be and should have been. So it's only now that this thing really works well. It just does what it's supposed to do. Your devices can easily connect. And there was one update though recently that killed the machine pretty much, and that it said something like it wanted all your devices to be updated for it to be able to function as it was before the update. So that's all I'm going to say. But
that'll be in our tech support episode.
Now, as of the most recent version of the software OS, it's functioning normally. So I think that was an issue with one of the version, that they might have went too far in terms of what they were trying to do with getting all your devices to integrate, and they were saying you need to update your devices for them all to work together, and that's just an Apple thing that drives everyone nuts. Is we don't want to be your beta tester for free, Apple.
That wasn't an Apple
Come
thing.
on.
That was the update to Matter, right? So that was actually it's a standard ratified across everybody. They pulled that update because there was an issue with how the standard was being implemented. So that wasn't an Apple thing. That was
Yes.
Just not going to stand up for Tim on this one, but they pulled the update probably about 6 hours.
There's definitely a weirdness.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, this is actually the biggest architecture update change to smart homes ever. And it does mean that you can actually go back and forth between an Apple system, a Google system, and an Alexa system. So it's sort of they kind of have to get it right, and I think for whatever it was, I think it was actually like a language issue, like a written language issue. So they pulled it, but yeah, it should be back in the next couple weeks.
And so Matter is the new the smart home networking standard, and which features Thread radios. Gray, so we'll be able to you can get HomeKit, or like you mentioned, something in the Amazon ecosystem or the Google ecosystem and things, if they can be upgraded to the new standard, or if their new generation stuff should play together a lot more nicely going forward. Because I think the industry has found that smart home stuff has not really been catching on that much with normies, just people like us, with our Nests and our smart light switches and stuff like that. So fingers crossed for Matter and Thread to help bust open that market and help everyone out, make it a lot more user friendly. My tech purchase of the year is something I spoke about in January, and it's kind of borderline for tech, and it's something that's 6-7 years old now, and it was our lovely 2016 Kia Soul EV that we got for secondhand. Got a really good deal on it just before used car prices went super crazy and gas prices went especially crazy. Thanks.
Yeah, your timing couldn't have been better for that.
And I just got to say, in terms of impact on one's lives, especially as things have been starting to open up a little bit and we've been driving more, it's been, it's had some of the most impact on our lives, let's put it that way, in terms of not, paying our other car, it's like still $130 to fill the tank. And when you're on electric, it's about 20% of that. So really like it, even though it's old and it's not super long range, only about 100 kilometers. Got it for a great price. And those short range secondhand EVs, as mentioned previously, are a great choice for those fortunate enough to have a 2-car plus family, because then you can still have your exploding dinosaurs car for road trips. And until such point is the prices on longer range EVs or hybrids become a little bit more affordable. So still loving it, and there's still a year left on the traction battery warranty. So we're going to keep driving it hard and hopefully get that battery swapped out. It's got to get below 70%, and I hope we can I've got there's an app that you can get to use along with an OBD2 reader to actually read the battery health ratings. So that's going to be one of my projects for the year ahead. So moving on to our movie picks of the year, starting with Will Silver. And I'm surprised Will won't shut up about this movie, and I finally saw it. I'm surprised that it's his number one pick of the year, but now he's got me evangelizing it to other people. Like
squeaky wheel. That's I only had
drink
to
the Kool-Aid. Tell us, Will, about Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
It would not be my guess. I
Yeah,
would say.
so it is an unusual movie. It isn't what you think it's going to be. I think. The other thing is, I watched a number of movies, and there's nothing that really. I mean, Jamie's pick, which he'll talk about in a sec, I think was really close for me. 'Cause that's the only other movie I would put in that category. There's movies I liked, like Wakanda Forever, but I wouldn't have said that was my favorite movie of the year. This one is one that stuck with me for a long time. There's a lot of inside jokes between me and my family who had watched it. And there was just a bunch of things where Tristan kept on mentioning things like changing Sonic the Hedgehog's animation, and I would always think of this movie.
Ugly
so
Sonic.
It's a really smart, funny movie. There's this sort of creative team behind Lonely Island, which is Andy Samberg and
Akiva Schaffer,
yeah. And basically did a lot of the songs that are classics from SNL about 15 years ago or so. But yeah, so I really enjoyed this movie. I recommend it, even if you have never watched the original animated series. I don't think it really matters. If you like animation, if you like pop culture, I think this is a great movie. But
if you like fun.
Yeah, if you like fun. It's definitely light and fluffy. It's a popcorn movie. It's not going to win the Oscar or anything, but it was a real fun movie to watch.
It looks very cool.
And I took Will's advice and we watched it last week, and my wife Stephanie was skeptical, and she was like, that was better than I expected. So
that's high praise. That is high praise.
Exactly.
That is a definitely a plus when that happens.
And we got another pick here that I think, Will, you and I saw in the theaters together, and Jamie can tell us where he saw it, but this is another fantastic, original, very original feature.
Yes.
Jamie,
this was close to my favorite movie.
Yeah,
Tell us about your pick,
so Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, and it's a, I hesitate to even try and describe the movie, or it's sort of a sci-fi fantasy.
Multiverse extravaganza.
But very heartfelt and heartwarming. And it has Jamie Lee Curtis, as we can see in the trailer there. But it also, it's got Michelle Yeoh here. She's great in it. She's actually fantastic in it. But the real breakout star is I can't remember how to say his name. Ke Huy Quan.
Short round.
Short Round from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. He's all grown up and kicking ass.
They grow up so
He's actually, I've heard Oscar buzz for him for this role in this movie, and which I would go. I was surprised to see his range in the show, actually, what he actually brought to the table, and it was unexpected, and I think that's maybe what I like these days. I like to go in and I like to see smart writing with talented actors and tell me a story and entertain me. That's all I want. And this really, I couldn't say, hey, this is just like so and so or just like that. It really is a strangely emotional and fun and wacky all at the same time. So that's what I got to say about that. And I saw it at home streaming. I haven't been out to theaters very much. Not that I wouldn't it's just so easy to sometimes just sit on the couch and stream to the TV. But it was really a good watch. So I want to watch it again. Actually, I haven't seen it since I watched it the first time, but it's worth a rewatch, I think.
I think it's one of those cases where you got a couple movies out within a few weeks of each other, and like we had with Dante's Peak and Volcano back in the 90s, and we had like Contagion and not Contagion, we had Outbreak and some other one back in the 90s as well.
Virus, I think. Was it called Virus?
Something like that. There was
this is case we had Deep Impact too.
Oh yeah, we had Armageddon and Deep Impact.
Yeah.
So in this case, we had Everything Everywhere All at Once, and the movie that suffered in comparison was Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yes. Well, but also it was not as good a movie.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It suffered by comparison. If it didn't, if people hadn't, a lot of people hadn't seen the other, like, oh, okay, well, it's fine. But now it's like, oh man, they could have done so much more, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I mean, it was own horror kind of, Sam Raimi-esque take on Marvel, which was neat in its own way. But this was just so different.
It was refreshing. It was a refreshing, weird movie.
We could all use a little bit more weird in our lives.
Yeah, Sam Raimi pulled a full Sam Raimi too. That was like classic sort of 80s Evil Dead type of stuff.
On the Doctor Strange, yeah.
But it did feel a little dated, and maybe like I saw things coming around the corner, and as Jamie said, this was everything everywhere all at once was a little bit more unpredictable and a little bit off the beaten path.
All right, moving on to Jerome's pick, and this was a contender for my number one, but I'm going to go with another one. And Jerome, what's your name?
That's my pick.
Oh, is it yours?
That's his pick.
Sorry.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I can't read.
Good.
I mean, yes, Gray, your pick?
Yeah. Batman. Batman.
You mean
The
Vengeance?
I'm Vengeance. I am the Knight. Obviously, like, tough year for Batman. We said goodbye to Kevin Conroy, who, to me is...
We didn't actually get a chance to discuss that on the show due to some scheduling issues. Can you remind us all who Kevin Conroy was?
So Kevin Conroy was the voice of Batman and his disguise, Bruce Wayne, from Batman the Animated Series and through the DC Animated Universe, which arguably is a better representation of comic stories than the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'd put those two up against each other any day. And he's played Batman through pretty much everything. And, we've had other Batmen. Natalie Keaton's coming back this year. But we have Robert Pattinson here, who, aside from being a shiny vampire for a couple of years, has had a fantastic acting career. And just absolutely slays it here. The whole film just feels like it's a ticking time bomb, And you've got, is it Paul Dano as well? We won't say. If you haven't seen it, you gotta go watch the film. But the whole thing feels very different from all of the other Batman films that have come before. Really, quite enjoyed it. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And it is the first half of what will be a larger epic. I'll leave it there. But I will ask you one question. We're looking at the Zeitgeist thing. If you had U571 or maybe Das Boot and 50 Shades of Grey, because they're both about subs. Moving on, Jerome.
Yeah, the
Delete your
Batman
account.
was unique. It was unique, and it was
Yeah.
just had its own style
Colin Farrell
that didn't.
as the Penguin.
Unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Just saw Colin Farrell last night in The Banshees of Inisherin on Inisherin on Disney Plus, which was a neat little movie. Kind of a strange, sad story, but amazing acting jobs on the part of everyone involved, including the leads, Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. So just a quick
very
little
interesting.
aside
Yeah.
there. Oh,
Yeah.
and bye, Greg.
He said good. There was a little
He
bye-bye
did
wave,
get
I
a,
guess. There.
call come in. I guess so.
All right, so Jerome, I think it sounds like you may have seen a movie that none of the rest of us have seen yet because it's kind of new.
That's crazy. You haven't seen Avatar? Oh, okay. Because see, Avatar has a dear place in my heart because when this movie was announced to be showing here in China, everything was locked down, and I was like, they better open the theaters for this thing because I'm going to be pissed if I can't see this in the theater. You have to see this movie in the theater, right? And then everything got changed, like literally days or right around the time of the movie release. So I was like, yes, I'm going to get to see this in the theater. And the reason I picked this is I didn't think there were so many impressive movies this year. It was hard to pick one. But what stood out for me with this movie is the integration of the digital and artificial rendered like visuals with real life, real action footage is seamless. It's unbelievable how well they integrated the two together. It's like you don't even realize or notice, well, this is real, this is not real. It's so well integrated somehow. And there's a lot of shots here which are in really beautiful locales and stuff. So it should have taken you out of the story, because this is such a drastic, like all the actors are like, CGI, and then you have the real footage of the location, but it's all feels like it works together. And there's some arguable points about the story and things you could say is not perfect, but it's just so impressive and so beautiful. It's such eye candy. You need to see it in a theater, in a good theater. And I was just feeling appreciative that I could actually do that. And but yeah, so that's and then I guess because I haven't been to the theater for a long time, like there hasn't been any foreign films in China. So I also had a follow-up of Man from Toronto, which is a very new one that also came out recently that I just saw. And I like that because it's, the old Jackie Chan movies. It's kind of like that feeling where you have the annoying, crazy black guy, and then you have the badass, like, superhero.
So it's like Rush Hour with
guy
kind of like Rush Hour with Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, kind of that sort of team up.
Yeah. I miss those kind of like that kind of comedic action, and this is going back to that, but it's just crazy. It's so crazy, and it's so interesting. So I wanted to put that out as a new film that you should possibly check out. That it was I had no idea. I didn't hear anything about it.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if it made it to the theaters here.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, see,
I saw it on streaming.
Iris is like, have you heard about this movie? And I'm like, no. I don't even know if it's a new movie. It could be an older.
I think it was this year, earlier this year, but I don't think it made it to the theaters, or very limited in North America. Just looking at the clock.
Okay, so I'm kind of lucky to see it.
So back to Avatar for a minute. It was 13 years since the first one, and I remember seeing the original. I think Jamie was with you. Will, were you there as well? We saw it at Riverport.
Yeah,
and
you got me. I don't remember that kind of stuff.
Greg was there. There's a photo that came up recently, Jamie, that I need to dig up and send to you. Yeah.
And one of the cool things about seeing it at the time is that the 3D wasn't like poke you in the face 3D. It was more like the depth of the world. Now, I remember like experiencing the movie. It's like, this is really cool. I think in retrospect, it's kind of one of those things that's like, you think about it a bit more. It's like, the story is kind of like Dances with Wolves or Fern Gully, and I don't know. And
Yeah.
there's a tendency with certain movies where they kind of like the internet discourse kind of people think about it a bit more, and then they start talking about it online. They kind of pick it
Yeah.
apart. It almost like spoils the original experience a little bit. But my main question for you, and to be fair, like, and that's infected me to a certain extent. Like I've really not super interested. I hadn't been super interested in seeing this. I'm going to see it because it's the kind of thing you need to see in the theater, because 3D TVs never really picked up, and I'm not a huge fan of 3D in general, but I think this would be a good 3D experience. And James Cameron, like, he is committed to his craft. Now, after 13 years, did it feel similar to the first one in terms of the, like, I haven't seen the original since seeing it in the theater. Like, do you think that the tech has come a long way? Is it like markedly improved? Is it, like, what are your thoughts on the time that's elapsed and what we're seeing on the screen now?
Well, the original was so ahead of its time that the jump now isn't so great, because at that time it was just so advanced. So there is definitely an improvement, though. Like the quality is so high, like, and it's just like, I mean, it's also the creativity of the artists who created the worlds and the environment is just incredibly gorgeous. Like, it's just so I have to give credit to the creativity of it, and not just the tech. But the creativity wouldn't work unless the tech sold you on that this is real. This is like, looks totally real, and it does that. So I guess I can say from that perspective, it's very convincing, and that shows the advancement on the technology, because they really went far in terms of doing stuff underwater, and that is very difficult to pull off in a organic way. I mean, I have to say that organic is the word to use here on this film. It just looks so real, so natural, and that's like a credit to the technology. And I was surprised how much connected the story was to the last one. I thought it was actually going to be a different planet, but it's actually quite linked to the previous film. So it is good to see the previous one maybe before, if you want.
Have a little refresher. That's a good idea. Now, given that we may have another 3 Avatar movies after this, maybe will be time to explore other worlds at some point, because
maybe
I'm not sure how much appetite there is otherwise for more of like the same kind of thing. But we'll definitely give it a go. But thanks for the recommendation.
This is a different part of the world.
Yeah.
It's the different part of the world where people are essentially live in the water. So it is like kind of a different world, but it's the same planet. But I think after this point, they probably couldn't do too much on the same planet, maybe, but who knows? He's always surprises us, Cameron, with this. And I don't know about there, but he got a personal introduction to the film over here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Tom Cruise did that for Top Gun Maverick, which was close to my choice for top movies.
Well, speak of the devil.
That was awesome. Yeah, definitely.
Top Gun Maverick was, I'm going to be the basic one here and choose this because it was a toss up between the Batman and this for kind of different reasons, but both in that story, execution, like visuals, music, the pacing. I mean, Batman's a much slower movie. Top Gun Maverick is much more propulsive. But this is 2 of the 3 movies that I've seen twice this year, and I don't normally see movies twice, but from various scheduling reasons and some of the things that happened this year, I ended up seeing Top Gun Maverick twice, which it held up the second time, and definitely the kind of movie that you really benefits from the theater experience. I rewatched the first movie originally and was like, okay, yeah, I kind of remember this from 1986. Was never a huge fan in the first place, but I wanted to revisit that world, and then saw the new one. It's like, wow, okay, I think it's probably even better than the original, and it's very faithful in tone and style, and it's kind of a realistic interpretation of what his character might be like 35 years later, just kind of like stuck in a certain gear, but. Yeah, it's a masterclass in storytelling and building the tension. And it's not a complicated movie, but it's just very well executed. And I think for all the people that like to go on about Tom Cruise and his personal life and quirks and whatnot, he is really like the premier action hero actor of the day and producer of movies. He was like a force behind making this happen. He didn't want to make it happen until it had a decent enough script, but he's got also the Mission Impossible series, which is generally pretty darn good. Mission Impossible 2 aside, but yeah, like I gotta give it's got respect, whether it's begrudging or otherwise, because he doesn't have a lot of clunkers. So Top Gun Maverick is going to be my pick for 2022. Not super art housey. There's lots of other great stuff out there too. Haven't seen Tar yet. A lot of people have been talking about Tar with Cate Blanchett. Just haven't gotten around to seeing it yet. But we'll see we'll see what gets nominated for Oscars. Like, cool artsy movies, or as well as movies that a lot of people actually see as well. Like back in the days of, like, say, Titanic, or only the third Lord of the Rings movie finally got an Oscar nod. So it's gonna be interesting.
It's good you mentioned the story. The story, they waited for the story for this, because the story, it was very difficult to pull off. The sequel's usually not as good as the original, and this one is so much higher rated than the original because they pulled off a very difficult story concept really well in this. Like, I was like doubting how they could do it, but they really did it.
Now, one story or one show that we've been talking about for over a year. This was actually, I think, my pick last year for our anticipated picks episode, and I would have chosen it as my pick this year for top show, but we're going to give it to Will. And I think some of others of us may share this as well.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No apologies required whatsoever. This is all a pick.
Yeah,
everyone's gonna pick.
It's hard to genuinely look at all the shows I've seen this past year and not say that Andor on Disney Plus, the story of the prequel to Rogue One in the Star Wars universe, was not the best show of the year, at least from my perspective. And I actually just recently rewatched the last 4 episodes with a family member who was unable to watch the end. And I had to be tight-lipped for about a month. So we really enjoyed it. And
had you told said family member that you've been watching it?
I did. I confessed. I confessed. I threw myself on the court and said, I needed something to distract myself. I'll rewatch it with you. I am so sorry. I need something to watch. So they took pity on me, and we rewatched the last 4 episodes, and I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed the conclusion, knowing where it was going, and just the acting in this, the writing, the way it's shot. The flashbacks have a lot of meaning and really tie into things, the flashbacks to Andor's childhood, just an absolute masterclass in how to put together a spy thriller, I think. And I highly recommend it. I know that at least the first number of episodes, people were criticizing it or saying it was boring, or they knew what was going to happen. And I just, give it time. This is just some of the best world building and character building that I think Star Wars has ever done, which I guess is a fairly low bar, but at least in terms of character building. But yeah, this is just an absolute joy to watch. I know, Tristan, this was probably close to your top. What are your thoughts on it?
Oh no, yeah, it was definitely my top. But we like to discuss a variety of things here, so we can't all pick the same thing. But it's remarkable that you can do world building in a world that has been so well trodden, and they still manage to humanize the Empire and add nuance to the rebels. It's not, rebellion ain't a neat and clean operation. So exploring those gray zones, it's a grown up, as you mentioned, it's a spy thriller that just happens to be set in the Star Wars universe. It doesn't have the Force, it doesn't have Jedi or Sith or anything in it. It's very human, it's very humanistic in a lot of ways, very grounded and very effective, and it's that slow burn, which I really enjoy as well. Jamie and Jerome, I know you're both Star Wars fans as well. Real quick, Jamie, what was your
Oh
your
yeah,
take?
it was one of my choices for top shows. I just
Mhm.
wanted to choose something a little bit
course.
different. Yeah, I did enjoy it. Again, I did think the first few episodes we were close to giving up on it because it was just kind of like, okay, well, they're trying, but it didn't grab us, and I can see why it's actually fairly hasn't been seen by a lot of people. Unfortunately, it sounds like, because I think a lot of people had that same reaction, and these days people just need to be grabbed.
TikTok is melting people's brains.
It is. It is. And so, but
Yeah.
yeah, we ended up enjoying it. But it would have been great if we could have been grabbed a little earlier in the show. So, and then Jerome, I don't know if you have same kind of ideas on the show or not.
Well, I heard from a number of people before I started watching that it's going to take time and you need to give it time. So then I was prepared for that. But something that I really loved about it is it gives you this insight and detail to the rebels as well as the Empire that we've never seen before. It's like a really deep look. It's when the guy who gets fired, he's there with his mom, and you're like, holy crap, they're really going like really deep here with these characters, like, and what motivates them and why they are the way they are.
So much passive aggression.
I was like, oh my god, do they have Jewish moms in space too?
Yeah, it's like so detailed and it's so passionate, and you can see he's like very anti-hero though at the beginning, and you're like, wow, he's not even close to the Cassian Andor in Rogue One here. Like, this is
messy.
It's very interesting.
That's the great part about it. All right, Jamie, speaking of messy, your pick is one that I think Graham introduced us to last year. We've been talking about this show for a while together, offline as well.
Okay,
but you and I, when you reintroduce us to your pick for TV show of the year.
Yeah, this is a John Cena vehicle, the former WWE wrestler, and he is a I want to call him an anti-hero, but he's really a good villain. He's like a pro-villain, positive villain kind of stereotype. So it comes from the DC universe. He is a villain who is on the road to reevaluating his life a little bit after the movie Suicide Squad, or The Suicide Squad.
The Suicide Squad, yeah.
Yeah, it gets confusing. Anyways, it is just
a good one,
lot
or
of fun.
the better.
And this show grabs you right at the beginning of every show because of the intro dance that they do. And it's the same dance every time, but every time I would put it on, I would not skip because I wanted to watch them do the dance.
Did you learn the moves?
I did not. No, I'm too old for that, Tristan. I have 2 broken legs. But yeah, it is. It's dark and gritty and rude and disgusting, and it's just kind of a movie that doesn't take, or a series that doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's very serious at the same time. Like it's got a weird vibe to it. It's filmed here in Vancouver, or it was, and I believe there's a season 2 going to be coming up. And some of these characters are just an absolute mess in a good way.
Peacemaker included. Yeah.
Cena's perfect for that role though, where it's like really serious, but it's like hilarious,
Oh yeah, so you just got to give it a watch, and you're gonna like it or you're gonna hate it. It's not meant to be kind of covering all the bases or really preaching to the masses here. It's going to be for a certain type of watcher, but I like things a little dark and gritty but also hilarious. There's a lot of laughing that goes on in this, and John Cena, props to him. He just seems like a big doofus, but he is really good at pulling off really getting people engaged with his performances. So I guess that means he's a good actor. I don't know, but
unexpectedly vulnerable in this role as well as the series goes on. It's like, great cast. We've got the T-1000 in there, Robert Patrick as his father, and good.
Anyways,
another good pick, but definitely not for everyone. Yeah,
it's not for everyone. Yes, I wouldn't sit the kids down in front of this one after dinner. And, hey, I heard the guy on the internet said this was a good TV show. And
it was like, Stephanie's not like super on board. She tolerates it, but it's It's
Christy loved it. Christy absolutely loved it. She loved it, and we couldn't wait to watch the next episode. So yeah, it was.
she is kind of twisted though.
She is a little bit twisted. It's my influence, really.
And Jerome's TV series pick is actually a TV series made about a book that I'm currently reading. So tell us about
really?
Shantaram, Jerome.
Yeah, well, this Shantaram is it's really a credit to the story, the book. It's a very interesting story. But I was quite disappointed that this was canceled because I really was into it. But it's understandable because it's not mainstream stuff at all. And in fact, if you don't love Indian culture, have an interest in Indian culture, you may get lost on this first season or the first part of the book, I guess. Or I don't even know if this is the first part of the book, but it's set in India. But it is, like we talked at the beginning of the show, about a guy who escapes, a criminal who escapes to India to try to run away from his past. But the thing is, it's very like, is he really a criminal? Because he kind of gets arrested for something that you're like, he wasn't really the one that should have been arrested. And so it's like gray area, a lot of gray area, whether he was a criminal, but he wants to redeem himself when he's in India. But then in order to do that, he gets involved with a lot of criminal activity there, and he starts to get back into the same, problems he is trying to run away from. So it gets very complicated because it's basically a thriller with a crime thriller as well as a deep dive into Indian culture. So he ends up living in a slum at one point. So it's quite interesting to see that whole experience. And I worked in India and I visited a number of times, so I found it quite fascinating. And even though I almost died in India, I actually want to go back because it's just so fascinating. I mean, I can't. It's hard to say. I mean, the advertisement the government puts out calling it incredible India is actually a good word to describe it.
Now,
So it captures that.
How faithful did you find the depiction of India? Because it's set in Mumbai, is it not? At least initially.
Yeah, which I haven't been to, but
Okay.
I think it is quite faithful. But they don't get into too much of what would it be like for a guy to live in India from Australia. Like, and like the first thing would happen is he'd get probably quite ill, but that didn't happen till later.
Happened to a
and it
friend of
was
ours.
yeah. So it doesn't try to like, let's show you what India's like. It's like, well, we're set in India, but here we have a story here to tell about this character and the underworld of a big city like that in a country like that. So that it's a lot more about that but it is quite authentic, I have to say, in a lot of ways. But that's not the main focus of the show. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting and different. Like Jamie said, sometimes when something's different, you're like, yes, this is not what everyone else is churning out, the mainstream fodder. This is cool, and interesting. And but unfortunately, sometimes that means it's going to be canceled. But I recommend it if you have any interest in Indian culture and then the underworld of what might be going on in that place like that.
So I've just got to get through another 750 pages of the book, and then
Yeah. Well, you know what?
not
though?
a short book.
The book, it seems that the second season was set in Afghanistan, and so the book is a lot more than so once he goes to Afghanistan, you can start watching the show, I guess.
Perfect. Real quick, you wanted to give a quick booby prize to another show, a comedy.
Yeah, briefly, I've been watching
seasons 3 of this the show, or
I think the one I wanted to mention was season 2. I've been watching season 3 now, and Mythic Quest, about a gaming company. And as somebody who works on games, I thought it was interesting, but it's very much about some very, very dysfunctional and messed up people. And really, that's what it's about, which is, it gets a little tedious. But they have some very interesting, 2 things I want to mention that's worth watching. They have a backstory episodes every season, and the backstory episodes are very interesting because they go into how did these people become a famous game developer and creator, and at one of them goes into when the older character in in the game company, who's the writer, how did he get well known? And he get to meet he met Asimov apparently when he was young,
Mhm.
and that backstory is very interesting. And so those are worth watching. If you don't want to watch the whole show, just watch the
Yes,
backstory and
that's in season 2. Yeah.
watch the end of season 2, the COVID pandemic episode. It's just, I was on the floor laughing about how that old guy tries to, do his work online, and with a very limited technological abilities. It's just the perfect way to, anyone with parents using computers, or older people trying to use technology, will just totally relate and say, yes, they got it right, they got it perfectly. Because that episode, I don't know what it's called. I think it's called the pandemic episode or something.
Yeah, it was like an
and it's
extra they did in between seasons there.
yeah, it's like an
And
extra episode at the end of season 2. I think it's just, you got to see that. It's just so funny.
and that character CW that you mentioned, he's played by F. Murray Abraham, who he played Dara Dal in Homeland, and he's a famous character actor and other things as well. But he's definitely
great.
cast against type in this story. Season 3, unfortunately, he's not back for season 3, and I think it's kind of it's suffering for that a little bit. We're about halfway through season 3, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
but
We gave this show a try, and we couldn't quite get into it. Maybe we just don't have the context. I don't really know. But
I
one
think I
thing
can understand that, Jamie. And I
Yeah.
think if you're in that situation, go watch the backstory episodes where they talk about the backstory, and then the pandemic one, and then you're good. Because those are definitely,
Okay.
they're in a
Yeah,
different league. They're a very
Fair
different
enough.
league.
A show that I would say on Apple TV Plus that just since we're doing other shows, Severance. That was very close to my top pick actually for everything here.
not like we're going to talk
yeah.
about that in 30 seconds or anything, but
What?
whatever.
It's not on your list.
We have to talk about that. That show is
It's not on. It's not on this. Not on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, because you know what it says on the spreadsheet. Because when you're busy trying to run a show, you don't get to put your things in there because you're letting other people finally get their things in there. But that's okay. No, you go ahead. I'll just help you.
No,
Yes,
I'm in the Wayback Machine. We've gone back 20 seconds. Tristan, what's your pick?
Oh, it doesn't matter. So yeah,
Definitely does.
I think Mythic Quest. If you've ever worked for a tech, I got serious Chalk vibes from.
Oh.
Yeah.
So working in a tech-ish office environment, there's a lot of characters there that you kind of you recognize, and it's obviously an amplified version of what a game dev studio would be like. And I think people are probably game developers themselves are probably split on its depiction, because obviously they take a lot of liberties. But if you're a fan at all of we say It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, it's some of the creators behind that, like Charlie Day and Rob McElhaney, and so we're just gonna almost about to wrap up here. So Jamie did mention what my pick for a series it would have been Andor, but a close number 2 was Severance, and that was also on Apple TV Plus. Again, original storytelling. It was courtesy of Ben Stiller. It's been a while since we had an experience where there's just such a mystery to the story. It's kind of sci-fi. It's kind of like Office Space meets Dark City a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
The world is not as it seems, and with each episode, you're learning a little bit more about how this world works.
Very mystery boxy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's more to come too, which is exciting. Hopefully, I don't know how many seasons are planned. I hope they don't overdo it. But the way season 1 ended, it's like, oh, well, okay. There's some revelations and
full of
more
questions
to
to be answered. Yeah.
Exactly. Did you get a chance to see that yet, Will?
I haven't. No, I
Put it on the list.
Yes, I'll put it on the list.
That would have been my top pick too, but I knew somebody would pick. I was really hoping somebody would pick it, so I wanted to pick something else. But it's definitely one of the top with Andor that must see for sure.
Exactly.
So,
all right, we got to do speed round for our wild cards here, starting with William.
So I mentioned this earlier in the year. It's a service I use called Splice for finding and organizing samples. I've actually found it a very useful tool for music making and for even things like MIDI sequences and things like that. I don't use it exclusively. I still have other ways that I find samples, but this has been a huge help, and it's really a great service. They're improving their search. That's probably been the worst thing about them. But yeah, so really, if you're into music making, Splice is definitely a great tool.
Nice. Next up, Jamie, something I've not heard of before. What is
Yes, this
Satisfactory?
is a PC game called Satisfactory. It is a open world factory kind of game. You may have heard of Factorio. It's a more of a 2D game. This one is based on the Unreal 4 engine, and it's a world. It's a 30 square kilometers, and you go and you're dropped by a corporation, and you have to mine and build machines with conveyor belts to join the machines to mine and then make this, and then this goes to this, and you have to build that to then build all these other things. That's a crazy, yeah. So you can see you can create things however you like, and it is
Wow.
I find it very calming. And you can just play it and then move along, and you can build. This is all crazy things. This is not real gameplay. That's more people who like to really push the limits of what you can do.
Yeah, we're showing a video from a YouTuber who just
Yeah,
pushed it to the
exactly.
limits. Yeah.
It's really interesting because you have to do multiple combinations of different kinds of products to then create another product, which has to go to here, which has to go to the space elevator, which is kind of what your job is. And then there's animals that will try and attack you because it's their thing, and you have to power things up, and you have to mine coal or get oil, refine oil into fuel and plastic and this and that and the other thing. It's quite fascinating. So that's if you're into world building kind of stuff. I'm a big Sim City kind of guy. As of late, more City Skylines, but it's a great way of actually just building stuff, and then it's an interesting game.
And this is something that is available through Steam, correct?
It's a Steam, yeah. Steam, you can get it, I think, without Steam if you don't want to. But yeah,
Okay.
you look up Satisfactory. I think they're on version 7. It's still sort of in pre-release. They've just been and it's been around since I think 2019 or 2020. Slowly, they've been making it better and better and better, and now it's getting close to full release. So yeah.
Very cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
One thing, if you want to do the opposite, instead of building things, there's a great game that's a friend of mine works on. It's called Shipbreaker, and it's basically you're in space and your job is to take apart spaceships.
Very cool. There's another game called Dyson Sphere creator, Dyson Sphere something, which is similar apparently to this as well. If you want to build a Dyson Sphere.
Satisfactory. So
Yeah.
it seems so. It is. So there are challenges and there's like problems to be solved and whatnot.
Oh yeah, you have tiers to get to. You have to unlock different levels of technology, different modes of transportation. When you first get there, you basically have to cut down bushes to fuel.
Nice.
Bio burners to power things, and then you got to keep filling them up. Eventually, you can get all the way up to nuclear power. So yeah.
So yeah, because you got to mind your carbon footprint. Good stuff.
Exactly.
Check that out. Who's next here? Zelda, Breath of the Wild. That's true.
Yeah, it's 5 years old, I know, but I finally
That's
got
okay.
to play this, and I was just blown away. And now it's a shout out because the new version's coming out in May. But this is like again another open world, very massive game where you can go and do anything you want pretty much, and yet there is a story. There are missions. There are shrine puzzles that have either a battle that helps you to train your combat skills, or in most cases they have a puzzle or a trial that you need to solve, doing various things, and there's 120 of those. So it's unbelievable. Like, it's just massive, and it looks incredible. And it's so realistic. I play on a surround sound system on a good 4K TV. It's like just awesome. I love it, and I can't wait for the new one. So just want to shout out to the new one coming in May, Tears of the Kingdom. If you haven't played this one, play this one, and then you'll be ready for the new one. The nice thing about this one is that everyone's played it, so you can find tips, because I had to go online for like 80% of the game to find out how the heck to do it, because it's not easy parts. And so the new one, you won't have that, so it'll be interesting experience because it'll be fresh, and you'll have to figure everything out yourself.
So that's Zelda Breath of the Wild, and that is on the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, exclusively built by Nintendo to sell the Switch, I think. I realize now
Exactly.
why it's so good.
And Zelda keeps on trucking. My wild card pick is something we've talked about a couple of times on the show. Tasia and I beat it to death a couple of weeks ago, and that is ChatGPT. I've been talking people's ears off about this for the last several weeks because it is crazy. It's a sophisticated language model that has ingested seemingly the entire contents of the web until about the end of 2021. And you can just ask it to do anything, ask it to help you with your SEO strategy, ask it to, find out what Harry Potter books were called in other countries. Ask it how do you maintain your prostate health. Ask for top corporate law firms. How do you soothe your throat after singing a lot of karaoke? I don't know if anyone here has been doing that recently. So many things
That's
you could
awesome.
ask
It's
it
just
to.
awesome.
You
Yeah,
could write
it's awesome.
stories. You could write poems, songs. Learn about history. You got to be careful because sometimes it's wrong. So do your own research, as they say. But in terms, especially if someone's got a bit of writer's block and they want something to get started, we've talked about how college and especially high school papers it's going to be challenging because a lot of students are just going to use this. But I think teachers and professors are going to get wise to some of the telltale signs, and people use similar prompts. They're going to get similar results unless they really probe with follow-up questions to get more unique results out of it. Real quick, I know a couple of you have played with the Will. I was with Will last week, and we were getting it to write spy thriller stories about his cats and their secret lives.
Wow.
Will, have you had a chance to do anything else with it yet?
I started making it do lists of top superheroes and stuff, and put random superheroes in a super group and write a story and stuff like that. Yeah. And so some of that was fun. Again, results may vary. I mean, it's sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it does weird stuff, but for the most part, it's 80% pretty awesome. It's just you do have to go in and edit stuff and ask it other questions and further prompts and stuff like that. But it's pretty amazing what it does. I mean, making it write a song. I made it write a song about Vestax mixers, and then asked it to do it in various styles like country music and rap and emo and stuff like that. And so some of it works really well and some of it is not as good as others. But the thing that blows my mind is the rapping, because it actually does do rhyming quite well. So it's quite amazing.
People are gonna have to up their game, man, with this thing out there. Teachers and rappers and writers.
Jerome, if you had a chance to play with it at all?
Yeah, a little bit. I asked them some tech questions or questions about music industry stuff, and it was extremely knowledgeable, even about more underground and not so famous artists in certain specific genres. So it's wow, it's really impressive what it knows. As I said to Tristan, it's how does this thing know this much?
Amy, you've mentioned you've been messing around with ChatGPT a little bit in the last week. What have you gotten it to do so far?
Yeah, I did. At Christmas dinner, I had my dad. I said to my dad, "Oh, this can do this thing." And he's like, "Okay, whatever." And I said, "Well, you tell me what you want me to write a story." And he said, "Well, of course." He said, "I want a story about the fish that you reel into the boat, and then the fish swallows the hook and gets away." And I said, "Sure, we'll do that. We'll put it in northern BC," and did all this stuff to it. And then I did the story and I started reading it out to them. And he was slack-jawed. He was pretty shocked that a computer could do this. And then I asked it to write it in the form of a Shakespearean sonnet, and that really kind of silenced the room. People were a bit surprised that we were at Star Trek Majel Barrett levels of computers almost at this point, being able to just have natural language conversations and answers and ask it to refine its answers, which is pretty interesting stuff. So that's
not easy to do with the Shakespearean version of theme, right? Oh man, it's really getting into here. It's getting into Stranger Things and
So I've just asked it to write a scene where for some friends, Will and Gray and Tristan get together with special guest Jamie and Jerome to talk about their favorite tech movies and TV shows from the past year. About 3/4 of the way through, Gray has to leave, but the other four soldier on for another half an hour till the end. Real quick, I'm gonna play myself and Gray. Yo, what's up, guys? I heard we were going to talk about our favorite tech and media from the past year. Will?
Yeah, totally. I'm excited to hear what everyone's been into.
As Gray, me too. I've been loving that new VR headset I got. It's like you're actually inside the game.
Oh man, I've been meaning to check that out. What game have you been playing on it?
Mostly just a bunch of action games. It's so immersive. It's insane.
I'm more of a movie guy myself. My favorite from the past year has to be The Revenant. Oh, that was a good movie. It's kind of dated though, isn't it? The cinematography was just breathtaking.
Dated, says the guy who chose Zelda Breath of the Wild as his game, but anyhow. Yeah.
We should start off the show like this and then just see like if people notice that it's like we're just reading it off the prompt.
ChatGPT, you're wrong. I have not seen Stranger Things.
It doesn't know that much. That's good to know. It doesn't know that much.
Later on, Gray's like, man, I got to take off, guys. I have a thing in the morning. All right, man. Catch you later. Yeah, see you guys. Anyway, so
the writing is decent though.
Yeah.
On that note, the part of the show where we just talk about little projects. Real quick, Jerome, you've been doing more sound design for video games lately. Is that how you would describe it? And what is your new game?
Yes, but this new game is actually we're doing the Chinese version of this game, which is our main a lot of the main work we do in China, and this is a remake of quite a popular sci-fi horror game. So it's super excited about this coming out later this month. It was a very challenging project, and I'm really pleased we pulled it off. Very intense, very disturbing. You got necromancers here attacking this guy who is trying to fix the ship and put things together, and he's being stifled at every turn by these creatures who evolve out of whoever died. This is really messed up. So, but it's very high quality compared to the original, which is nice. So it's like, people who love the original now get to play a much higher quality version. They went even to the level of 3 different modes. When you're tired, the line is delivered in a tired way, and when you're injured, it's like, I gotta get the engine part. So we had 3 different versions depending on the state of the character. Wow. So it was going to be a very cool game. You're going to hear more about this later this month, and people start playing it and give their feedback. The fans of the original.
Awesome. Will, real quick before we lose Jamie to the land of Nod. You got a little project? This week as well?
So I'm pretty backed up on my projects, announcing them here on the live stream, but this is one that just came out a couple days ago, so I thought I'd just mention that. Actually, I think just yesterday. So this is Goldtooth Looper 5. I've actually been complimented on my song naming, particularly for this one. So yes, Fader,
your kids on
that's badass.
Duck Duck Moose, Kung Fu Unicorn. So yeah, I have fun with the names. So
have you been using ChatGPT for these names?
Yeah, I should use ChatGPT for the names. But yeah, so this one was really fun. It took me a long time because of some personal issues, but finally got it out, and so people seem to be reacting well, and I'm really proud of it. So I hope you guys check it out on Tableist.net, which I'm sure will be in the show notes, the web looper, and then also on TableBeat's app, and look for Molotov, which is my alias.
Sweet. Cool. I'm sure there's more loopers to come since you got a big jam up. Yes. Jamie, any projects for us this week, or are you saving it for next week?
Zero. It's Christmas time, and I've just eaten a lot of food. Yeah.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing more of evidence of what you cooked with your new probe thermometer.
I'll probe more things for you.
And then last but not least, the lovely and talented Tasia Custodi had a video on macOS Ventura, the best macOS Ventura tips and tricks. And you can find her work at TasiaCustodi.com or youtube.com/Tasia Custodi. And you can find out more about us at momentus.tv/links. Will, as always, thank you so much. And on behalf of Gray and Tasia, thank you, Jamie and Jerome, for joining us for our 2022 retrospective. Join us again next week when we're going to be looking forward to what we're most looking forward to in 2023. I'm already messing up dates.
I was
Graphics
doing
and
that today.
writing.
Give yourself
like
some
that.
time. It's early in the year.
Yes. But Will, Jamie, Jerome, and everyone else out there, we hope your week and your year are truly momentous.